Hello, Collingwood. What a gorgeous day we have today. I don't know if you guys saw, we did 3 rallies in 3 days. First we were in Niagara Falls, and it was amazing because when we got there, we actually had on-duty firefighters drive up to the rally, stop and show their support to show that we have first responders on board with our movement. And then yesterday we showed up to Windsor to thousands and thousands of people who waited extra hours for me because we had really bad delays. There was accidents, there was police officers stationed at all these specialized checkpoints. It was very, very tedious to get there, but I saw why. Windsor, to me, is actually the fighting spirit of Ontario. Oh my goodness, it's crazy. The people there were incredible. The crowd was amazing, energized, thousands of people all ready to just say no. And I've been around the country 3 times now, and I can tell you one thing, Ontario is pretty much the worst province. Especially with regards to restrictions. Like, we still have mask mandates here. They don't even have those in Manitoba. All right? And I was just in Manitoba, and it's probably the most corrupt province in the entire country, if you saw. I got arrested 2 times in the last 4 days, ladies and gentlemen. And the arrest was so corrupt, they had to release an article after the arrest, after I got out, because I made a video exposing their corruption, which I have evidence of that's going to be an investigation. So they actually had to release a new news article just now to try to convince the public that the arrest was legitimate. Almost as legitimate as the arrest 15 hours later where they arrested me again in Ontario and tried to make me sign a Form 10 so I wouldn't even be able to see my wife. That's how low they will go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm currently on 6 separate bails, each with their own conditions. So already I'm unable to drive, I'm unable to fly. They raided my home and took my legally owned firearms. I'm not allowed to have anything even conceived as a weapon. I'm on bail to that. Yeah, imagine that. And then on top of all that, they put me on these special conditions. So when they enact a new stay-at-home order in Ontario, which is probably coming in October after Trudeau wins, and we'll talk about that in a second, I will get arrested if I come to an event like this just for speaking to you if you come within 6 feet of me. Because somehow I become radioactive or something. That's what they did to me so far. And then they figure, what does he have left? What can we really take from him besides this freedom that they're trying to take? They try to take my wife. Now that was the biggest mistake they could have made because I love my wife more than anything in the world. And if anybody knows, what are you going to fight for? It's what you love. And that's why they don't want you to be in this type of situation here, in a positive protest. They want you either at home, isolated, feeling depressed and hopeless, or they want you to get wrapped up in violence and angry rhetoric. Because fear is the lowest vibration. It's the way they can control you. It's the way they can paralyze you. Love is what sets you free. That's the key. When you threaten what somebody loves, you turn them into a very, very dangerous person for your agenda. And I was already a dangerous person for their agenda, and then they went after what I loved. So now, that was the nail in their coffin. I was already coming for them, but now it's a different level. Now I understand that these people will stop at nothing to get what they want. And that means we have to have the same attitude. We have to stop at nothing to get what we want. And what do we want? We want our rights and freedoms back. Right? Well, you say they never left, but they did leave. They did leave. Exactly. But right now, as of now, we don't have them. We have businesses that are staying closed because they're scared. Now we have these vaccine mandates coming. And what did I warn you all on video 2 years ago? Almost 2 years ago now, I said, there's a thing called a vaccine passport. It has nothing to do with vaccines and nothing to do with passports and everything to do with removing your God-given, not government-granted, rights and freedoms and turning them into privileges that you only get to access if you submit to a poisonous injection from your government every 4 to 6 months. That is what I tried to warn people about. And I told everybody, the double jab isn't going to save you. It's not going to get you out of the mask. Everybody thought I was crazy. Everybody said, no, you got to comply. When you comply, that's how we're going to get through this. You non-compliers are what are prolonging this. Absolutely not. There's an agenda. The agenda was the vaccine passport. That was step 10. The only way they can get you to step 10 is to take you through 1 all the way to 10. And the only way they get you there is by your compliance. So once again, how do we stop all this? United non-compliance. And what does that mean? What does it mean? Because a lot of people say it, and then they tell me they're going to go vote for somebody. There's no such thing as united non-compliance in an election. None of the politicians will support united non-compliance. The idea of united non-compliance is anti-government. It is anti-obedience. It is the people taking the power for themselves and making their own decisions. Now ask any political party leader if they support united non-compliance, including Maxime Bernier. In fact, I did just that in front of hundreds of thousands of people in Montreal. I was standing on a podium, much like today, and I said, Maxime, if you're really about the people, if you're really this benevolent freedom fighter, then come stand beside me and tell the people you support united non-compliance. He was nowhere to be found. Why? Because no politician will support united non-compliance. No politician wants to give the power to the people. They want the power for themselves. They don't want to free you. They want to be the ones to manage the takeover. And anybody who comes as a savior is a liar. When they tell you they're going to save you, they're lying to you. If I told you I could save you, I'd be lying to you. And I'm not a liar. I'm going to tell you the truth. I can't save you. But what can I do? I can lead by example and teach you how to save yourselves. And I can prove it. Unlike these people, these politicians, and I use people as a term very loosely, I can prove it. We had the hotel quarantine. That was the last time the government did something so dastardly during the lockdowns that they basically united the entire country against it. So what did I do? I made a simple video in the airport about 3 minutes long to teach people that we still have rights and freedoms, teach people how to exercise those rights and freedoms, teach people how to bypass the testing and the quarantine, and then I taught the people how to deal with the fake fines that they gave out. And what happened? Within a few months, weeks actually, enough Canadians followed my lead and did what I did, and now what happened? They had to remove the hotel quarantine. So what do you think is going to happen with the vaccine passport? Think about this, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, do you think businesses want to do this? If you're a business owner and you're even thinking about mandating this vaccine passport, I want you to think about something real quick. In the last 18 months, who were the people that kept food on your table and kept you afloat? The people right here, the people that don't want to take the jab, the people that don't want to comply, the people that chose not to stay home. Meanwhile, the jab are the ones that were calling for the government to shut you down for their safety. And now you're going to enact a policy that caters to the people that shut your ass down and ostracizes the people who kept you alive the last 2 years. Does that sound like good business amongst morals? Well, that's why we have seen such a pushback against this. The first pushback we saw was the Toronto Police Union. That's the most important. Our police, and I've been getting arrested more than anybody, and I'm still telling you to back the blue. What does that tell you? It means they are trying to cause division when we need unity. And when our police, like their union, refuse the vaccine mandates and refuse the vaccine passport, who the hell's going to enforce this vaccine passport when the police themselves don't want it? In fact, they're having a protest on September 2nd at the Toronto Police Headquarters. And I plan on being there to show my unrelenting support for our Toronto police and our police around the country. There's obviously bad apples that need to be weeded out, but make no mistake, they are our front line of defense against this tyranny. They are as much part of the community as you or I, and any idea to defund the police is absolutely insane, because they would replace them with private military contractors from countries like Bosnia that kill men, women, and children without caring, and have no family or friends in this country. So, do we need our police? More than ever before. They need us too. They need us too to stand up for them. They can't be the only ones that reject this vaccine mandate and these vax passes. And guess what? They aren't. I can tell you. We've been organizing like crazy because the writing is on the wall. I'm going to tell you the stats first, and then I'm going to tell you what's going to happen and why we did this. We knew the vax pass was coming, certain members of society anyway. So I was organizing with business owners in different provinces, and we started in Vancouver because in BC they're very, very outspoken. They're very, very outgoing on this. And we started a group, BC Businesses Against the Vax Pass. And guess how many people are in that? Guess how many businesses are in that group? 100,000 businesses. It started one in Quebec right after that. It's already got 80,000. The one in Ontario, as of just about 24 hours ago, had only 3,500. Now it's up to almost 40,000 businesses. We have hundreds of thousands of businesses around the country that are just saying no to this mandate. We have the police unions that are just saying no. We have the fighter fighters that just want to say no. We have the pilots that want to say no. We have the students that want to say no. So what are we telling all these people? Everybody, federal, private, student, employee, September 1st is a worldwide walkout. A worldwide walkout to every one of these industries to let the government know that you don't make the rules, we make the rules. And we're going to decide what's best for ourselves. You're not going to tell us that we have to inject something into ourselves. They want to use this vaccine passport to divide society because they know the only way they can get it to stick and they can take your rights and freedoms is if they can get almost 100% compliance. So guess what they just did? Remember their target of 75%? Guess what their new target is for Ontario Public Health so we can get herd immunity? 100+% of the adult population and 90% of the entire population, meaning we now have to vaccinate children under 12 or we'll never get our herd immunity. So that's already their next way to extend this lockdown and extend this pandemic for another year until they can convince 100% of the people to submit to this jab and give up their rights and freedoms. And we all know that that's never going to happen. Never. Do you see what kind of, you see the reception Trudeau's getting? Yeah. You see how they have to cancel his events? You see how they have to change the location like 5 times in the last minute? You see how he gets even smaller crowds than we got here in Collingwood when he goes to giant cities and they're not there to cheer for him, they're there to cheer against him? That was the president check there. Thank you, I like that one better too. Everybody's been asking me to run for PM. So that's why I made those shirts, by the way. I made those shirts because somebody made a Twitter poll and they put Chris Sky for PM versus Justin Trudeau, Jagmeet Singh, Maxime Bernier. And with 15,000 votes, I got 65% of the votes, which was more than all of them put together times 3. So we got the Chris for PM shirts made as a way to say to these people. And I was trying to get it through to everybody that the election does not matter. It has no merit. And everybody always asks me this magical question, who am I going to vote for? They want to tell me who their favorite politician, or they want to tell me their plan to get rid of Trudeau. And everybody has this wonderful plan to get rid of Trudeau. It doesn't require money. It doesn't require any of that. It just requires Canadians and some balls. Let me say that again. Phase 1 of United Non-Compliance was the global awakening. That was 2020, when they pulled this card on us and told us everything they're doing to us is for our health and safety. And they used that to brainwash 99% of the population into submission. Then people like me and other people started speaking out and saying, hey everybody, this really isn't about your health and safety. This is about control. It's It's very simple. And as soon as you can alter someone's perception that tiny little bit, from the fake propaganda that this is about their health and safety to the harsh reality that this is all about control, that means they're awake. Boom. Hence the global awakening. It was the evolution of the global consciousness where people around the world in every country to the tune of billions realized our government doesn't really love us and our government isn't really looking out for our best interests. And at first that paralyzed people in fear. How could this be? They were paralyzed with disbelief, paralyzed with fear, and paralyzed with not knowing what to do. So that's why phase 2 of United Noncompliance was aptly taking action. So what did I do? I traveled around the country like a maniac, dodging cops and arrests and fines, and well, not really dodging them, more like just getting arrested over and 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 over again. But it was worth it, because as I went around and I had big groups like this in the thousands in big cities, they said, what are we going to do? How do we take action? And I made it so easy for them. I broke them down into actionable groups. The small business owners, the concerned parents, the people who didn't want to get jabbed at work, and the people who just didn't want to wear a mask for the rest of their lives. And we broke these people down into groups. And we used that to make these types of groups like the anti-vaccine passport business groups. And that's how you get taking action with these groups. I went into Longo's. Here's a perfect example of how taking action works. Everyone knows Longo's, their favorite wonderful grocery store until COVID. They became mask Nazis. And I went in there on a show called Blog Talk without a mask. I claimed my medical exemption, and they literally treated me like I was in there with an AK-47 and a suicide vest. It was absolutely hilarious. And I got my maple syrup, I scanned it, I paid for it, I left. And then 3-4 days later, I got visited at 1:30 in the morning on my private property by about 40 police officers and 20 cruisers who blocked off a 4-way major intersection and another major street to isolate my entire property and try to kidnap me without a warrant to be there or arrest me. Thankfully, I went live on Instagram, and that's your best weapon, by the way, is your phone. We're all using it right now. That's the only thing that saved me that night, because God knows what they were going to do to me. Thankfully, a whole bunch of patriots showed up right through their roadblock like they didn't give a shit. And you've never seen corrupt cops run so fast in your life. I swear, it was like they were in the Olympics for pussy. It was how do you think I could sleep after that video? But yeah, they do all that because they're trying to stop us from taking action. And they wanted to stop other people from taking action. But instead, it had the opposite effect. A friend of mine named Julio, @mask_exemption on Instagram, by the way, organized a taking action shopping group. One of the things I told him to do. And they took 65 people into Longo's. And they bought maple syrup, all 65 of them, without a mask. And Longo's freaked out and called the cops. And the cops came and freaked out even more. What are they going to do with 65 Chris Skies? And guess what happened? Longo's was forced to change their official policy to honor exemptions without question. Another example of United Noncompliance working. In BC, I used their business group with the same woman, she owns a restaurant called Corduroy's, by the way, who's organizing the Vax Pass group that's so successful. And with her help, and we went to her establishment, and I held a meeting with about 30 or 40 business owners. And I told them how to set up groups. I told them how to organize each other. And I gave them an opening date of May 24th. It's called Patriots Day. It's our long weekend. It's the start of summer. It made sense. I did the same thing here in Ontario, by the way. In BC, on May 24th, there were 1,850 businesses ready to just say no and open against the government orders. So guess what happened? The government gave them permission to open on May 25th. Why? Because of United Noncompliance. What happened in Ontario? All the businesses, and we had like probably 500, they all said, we're going to wait the 2 weeks. I'm like, you mean the 52 weeks it's already been? Plus another 2 weeks? But yeah, we know we're going to open in 2 weeks. Well, guess what? BC opened May 25th because they stood up for themselves. And Ontario is still not even fully open, and we're about to close down again. So, does it work when you comply, or does it work when you don't comply? Now, what's going to happen? This is the most important thing. This is why I was on tour in July and August when there was nobody wanting to go to a protest, when it's the only few weeks we get good weather and the only few weeks we're not in lockdown. But the message was very important because this is their big push. This is their big play. And what is their play? They need to turn us against each other so they can implement their agenda. How are they going to do that? Listen very carefully. And you've got to go and tell every one of your friends, every one of your family, especially the ones that took 2 jabs and are waiting for their 3rd jab. This is exactly how it's going to go down. I hope you're all recording.
We're recording.
Justin Trudeau is going to win the election. I'm sorry, guys. It's just the way it is. I'm sorry, that's what's going to happen. As soon as he wins the election, we're going to hear all about the rising cases. If you notice, I called this whole scenario predictive programming. And I'll give a perfect example. 6 weeks ago, Doug Ford, we're never going to do the vaccine passport. We're not going to have a double segregated society. And I told everybody that's called pacification. And the next step is called predictive programming, where they're going to release article after article after article promoting the narrative that we need the vax pass, rising cases, vaccine-resistant variants, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, just yesterday, Doug Ford announced, oh, we are absolutely going to do the vaccine passport. Right on schedule. So, what is going to happen? Trudeau wins. Cases are going to rise, but it's going to be cases in the vaccinated, especially the people that take the 3rd jab. Of course, the government's not going to tell them the truth and say you got sick because we injected you with a poison. They're going to say you're sick because of a new variant. Delta, Delta Plus, COVID-22, a super strain. Remember all those buzzwords, because I guarantee they're going to use at least 1 or 2 of them to scare you, because they're not very creative. So if I can usually predict literally exactly the words they use to lie to you. So I want those on record. And then they're going to say, this is the kicker. The new variant was created by us, the dirty, unvaccinated terrorists of society. And we need to be controlled. We've already seen the rhetoric from Trudeau. If you're not vaccinated, then you don't have the right to sit beside somebody who is. And that was supposed to be his mic drop moment in Calgary, and nobody cheered for him. Not even the people paid to be there cheered for him. And why is that? Because nobody believes in what he's saying, because it's a lie. But that's what they're going to do. They're going to tell all the vaccinated, who are the majority of the population, that they're sick because of you. And if you thought they hated you when you walked into a store without a mask, how do you think they're going to feel when they're actually sick and people they know are actually dying, and every time they turn on the TV is saying that you're responsible? They're planning on having the most massive division in society we've ever seen, that's going to put so much social pressure, along with all the mandates for federal and private workers and students and every other. They basically mandated vaccines to every single person they could. Now they're going to combine that with the social pressure of trying to turn all the people that are already vaccinated against the unvaccinated, combined with the pressure of government fines and everything else and being ostracized from society, and they're expecting that they can get over 90% of us jabbed, and then they can ostracize and camp up the rest of us. And that's why we got to push back harder than we've ever pushed back before. The best way to do that is to warn everybody of what's going to happen before it does. That way, when it happens, rather than turning us against each other, they're going to unite us like never before. This was their biggest mistake. The vaccine passport shows their true intentions. The vaccine passport is uniting the people who took the jab with the people who didn't take the jab. And rather than be the example that they want to set for the rest of the world, we're going to make an example out of them and set a standard of freedom that society has never before seen and enjoyed. And I told everybody this, and I have to say it again. People keep asking me to run for Prime Minister, and I told them the only way you guys will ever see me run for Prime Minister is if you show me that you can get through phase 2 of United Non-Compliance. So if the people stand with me, if the people reject that vaccine passport, the day the vaccine passport is no longer law in Canada, I will run for PM. Say it here, say it again. I'll find a way to do it. And I have a plan, by the way. Because how can you make sure that we'll never have another lockdown? It's very simple, and no one's ever done this before, and that's why it's going to work. This is the way it works. We have 338 ridings in our country. Every single one of those ridings is occupied by a public sector parasite that we call a politician. It doesn't matter what party they're from, they're still a public sector parasite. And what happens when they instituted the lockdown? They got more money, they got more power, they were immune from the restrictions, so they created a situation where they're the rulers, we're the slaves. And then every time we had a vote to end or extend the lockdowns, surprise, the politicians chose to extend their power and money and everything else. Is that surprising to you that they would do that? Well, it wasn't surprising to me, and that's why it keeps happening. Now imagine we replace those 338 public sector parasites with actual private sector people who have businesses, who have resources, who have skin in the game, who would never vote for another lockdown because they hurt so bad from this one. That's the kind of people we need in power. People that can run a government or their region efficiently, rather than with an annual budget deficit. Imagine a government run by people who actually know how to run a business and would never lock us down again. That is the future of Canada. And then we can really make things happen. We can enact policies to get money from these corporations like Amazon, Walmart, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, Pfizer, that made trillions of dollars off our suffering. What would be stopping us from instituting a COVID tax on these companies that could bring hundreds of billions of dollars tax-free into Canada that we could use for things like interest-free business loans, to get back some of the hundreds of thousands of businesses we've lost, to invest in our infrastructure and make us more self-sufficient? Why aren't we doing things like that? Why? Because we're too worried about COVID. Why? Because our leaders aren't leaders. Our leaders are tyrants. A leader's job is to use their time, money, and resources to manage the country in a way where you can run your family and run your life and attain success. When they're wasting their resources on managing you and your family, it's because they're doing things to you that they know you wouldn't otherwise stand for. So they have to keep taking more and more control as they do more and more to you. And make no mistake, this does not end with this pandemic. This pandemic is the vehicle for removing your rights and freedoms via a vaccine passport and removing your financial independence by closing all the small businesses. Small business represents 97% of all businesses in Canada. 70% of all of our jobs are attached to small business. And the moment that you were a small business owner, you were independent. You stood on your own 2 feet. You added to the GDP. And most importantly, you could just say no to the government. The moment that they put you on CERB for closing your business, which they are going to transition into universal basic income, which is welfare for all for life, they own you. And they can say things like, take a jab, or you're not getting your check. And now you're getting $2,000 a month when you could have been making $10,000 a month before that. But you're supposed to live on that, because you know in the future, you will own nothing, but you'll be happy. This is all a vehicle for stealing your wealth, stealing your freedoms, and then stealing your property. The big thing they're going to use to rob you of your property, and I got to explain this because a lot of people don't see this coming, is inflation. Every year in this pandemic, inflation is like 20 or 30% on the important items that you need to survive. So, what's going to happen to all the people surviving on a pension? They're going to tell you, don't worry, we have a solution for you. It's called a government-insured reverse mortgage. You're going to put your house up and you're going to get paid thousands of dollars a month, and you're going to use that money to retire and live. And they're going to tell you that you're going to have so much money left over to give to your kids that they're going to be rich and you're going to be so happy. And in the end, the government just owns your house, no big deal. In reality, through inflation, by the time you're dead, that money's going to be spent, and now you have no wealth, no property, and your kids start from ground zero, and they'll never get out of it. And that's exactly what they are planning. Right now, we are individuals with power, with freedom, and we can work together to make things happen. In their world, and I won't go into detail, it's in the book if you want to see it, you become basically a little blip on a screen, and they can just flip a switch, and like that, you're gone. That's what they want. They already have unlimited wealth. Now they want unlimited power. And they're getting it through our acquiescence and our submission and our compliance. And the only way we're going to get it back is if we just say no. Ladies and gentlemen, I know everybody's going to want to take pictures and stuff. So we're gonna set up. We got the Christopher PM shirts. We got my books. Everyone's got to read the book. Everyone's got to give it to people. The best thing I've heard people do is buy a copy and bring it to their office and pass it around the office. And it's literally it just wakes anybody up that touches it. It's like magic. It's amazing. So everyone has to get it. I'm sorry, it's a must. Because it's the only thing that's going to wake everybody up and stop this from happening. It's not going to be a politician, as you're going to see when Justin Trudeau wins. It's not going to be when they install the vaccine passport. It's going to be when we remove the vaccine passport. I love you, everybody, and I won't go anywhere, so don't worry. I'll be right here.